Hello, I'm Jeff Lopez-Stuit. You might be familiar with this picture. It's the background image from the Agile Manifesto website. This is the visual image we often carry in our heads when we think about a Scrum team engaging in face-to-face communication. A team standing together and collaborating with the aid of a whiteboard. But when I started working with teams in the financial service industry, which were dealing with huge legacy mainframe systems with extremely complex business logic, the principle of face-to-face conversation alone was insufficient. Many of these teams had to talk together for hours before they felt they understood a complex area well enough to get to work. So I searched for a model that would allow me to help teams that felt they needed these long conversation sessions to get working, and I found one in the famous horror film The Exorcist. Meet Regan MacNeil, the focus of the story in that film. Regan is a happy, friendly young woman. Until one day, she starts acting extremely strangely. She starts throwing tantrums, becomes violent, and later starts even acting more strangely, speaking in strange voices and projectile vomiting on people. Regan is a complete mess. So her mother does what's completely reasonable and takes her to the doctor. The doctor runs tests, proclaims that it's just stress, and prescribes her some drugs. Those don't work, so the doctor runs more tests, calls in specialists, prescribes more therapy, but nothing helps poor Regan. They iterate many times with increasing complexity, but Regan is just getting worse. In fact, she's getting much, much worse than I'm willing to describe in a PG-13 related Scrum Gathering presentation. No matter how many iterations of tests, analysis, and treatment she gets, no one can understand what's going on with poor Regan MacNeil. And then there's a pivotal scene in the movie where the entire staff of doctors and specialists get together with the mother and have a long face-to-face conversation. They've gone through many iterations of treatment, but no matter how much they talk about it, no one can understand what to do. No one has solutions, which makes a lot of sense, because little did they know they were dealing with a piece of legacy technology that had been created before the beginning of recorded time. They were dealing with the nature of evil, the devil, and people have been having long conversations and trying to understand and cure the problem of evil for thousands of years without success. So after the mother loses her temper during this meeting, the doctor somewhat embarrassingly suggests that we invite in these obscure specialists with knowledge of ancient legacy practices of exorcism. The doctor was not at all confident in their methods, but at that point, they had no other options. So they invited this team in. There are two members of this legacy team, a young member who had never really practiced in this domain, and an older, very experienced member with deep knowledge and experience of how to confront these kind of problems. The project was their very first experience working together, and they had never met before being called in for this work. As they met for the first time, the young team member immediately did what's natural. Let's have a conversation about the work we're going to do. Do you want to hear the background of the case first, he asks. Then the senior team member reveals that this approach to the work is different from anything we've experienced so far. Why? He replies. The senior team member creates some work tasks to get ready, but before they begin, the junior member still wants to discuss. I think it might be helpful if I gave you some background of the different personalities Regan has manifested. So far, I say there seem to be three, he says. The senior team member's response is simple and direct. There's only one. There's no amount of additional understanding that's going to help us deliver. There's no need for more conversation. There's only the work in front of us. And so they get to work. And after about a sprint and a half of intense, terrifying work, and after each of our team members have paid the final ultimate price for their sprint commitment, namely their lives, they deliver what everyone had been working and praying for. Regan was released from the clutches of evil and was healthy and happy again. At least until the sequel. So what can we learn from the contrast between the intense face-to-face collaboration between the medical staff and the senior legacy practitioners' focus on just getting to work right now? One of the things we strive for in Agile is to forgo big upfront design of systems and deliver value frequently from a couple weeks to a couple months, with preference for the shorter time scale. But for extremely complex systems, using face-to-face communication as a medium for understanding might be insufficient. A team might not feel it's able to proceed until understanding the situation fully, so even though they might not practice big upfront design, they may be practicing big upfront conversation. Kind of like the US Congress, an organization that's well known for their current difficulties in delivering value. Advice on how to overcome this comes from personal transformation expert Werner Erhard. One of Erhard's most common adages is that in life, understanding is the booby prize. If you want to have a huge impact on the world, understanding how you're going to do it is often secondary to getting in action and delivering. The very first principle of the Agile Manifesto supports this. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Trying to get deep understanding of how you're going to do this through design or conversation can actually be an impediment to delivering. Harold Rosenberg, who inspired the philosophy behind abstract expressionist painting, said it like this: "What was to do on the canvas was not a picture, but an event." Sometimes suspending the need to understand and staying focused on the event of the sprint is what you need.